My local union has 8 people here today, and every one of us have carried a body out of the bush. Unless there's someone out there that ensures that certification actually means every day you go to work, you have the ability to utilize that certification standard, that's fine. The last few people that have been killed in falling were certified fallers.
One of the most important aspects of our work as union members comes in health and safety. Today I'm the district director, but I started my union life as a health and safety activist. We need to always remember that the best wages and contracts mean nothing if workers don't make it home to our families and friends in the same condition they started. We can't leave it to government or employers to guarantee our health and safety. We've tried it, and we know that strategy doesn't work. In District 3, we bargain health and safety into our collective agreements. We lobby for stronger health and safety legislation, and we need to continually remind everyone involved that no job is worth dying for. We did just that in our successful Stop the Killing campaign starting in 2005. That year we saw far too many forest worker deaths and serious injuries, most of them working non-union. In that campaign we used a coordinated approach, working with our allies in the labour movement and communities, engaging the media and lobbying provincial politicians, working with government agencies and keeping the pressure on employers.
Safety and politics are an absolute necessity. I was always in the belief that we kept politics aside from safety, but I've learned very quickly that the two have to go together or we just do not move forward. In talking to the MLAs in Victoria, it was surprising, not surprising, shocking to me how many of them just had no clue what was going on out there. So
we say the culture of desperation is simply this. We see more and more contractors out in the bush, nobody taking responsibility for them. It used to be at one time when major forest companies maintained the forests and maintained the work, that everybody that worked in the forest industry came under their responsibility. There's been an increase and a steady downloading of responsibility. And we say that's effectively economic blackmail. When I talked about the right to refuse unsafe work that every single worker in this province has, in this country has, think of it. If you work at McDonald's, you have a right to refuse unsafe work, and that's a good thing. But if you're a contractor in the forest industry of British Columbia, if you're a logging truck driver, an independent owner-operator, how do you exercise your right to refuse unsafe work? How do you do that? Because I can tell you this, and it's well known, that if you exercise your right to refuse unsafe work, chances are you don't work the next day. You may not work on the next contract that's left. That's reality.
You know, and it's interesting. We're a company that came out of bankruptcy protection a little over a year ago. So when you go talking to people about this, and you're telling folks that this is the way that we're going to win in the long term, it takes a little bit of time to turn that around because they thought that they needed to make shortcuts. We finally have to show them that, hey, shortcuts, if you're just measuring against the clock for today, you may win by taking it. But every time that you show us a problem in safety, every time you show us or refuse to do work because it's unsafe, we actually can fix a problem in our business that, yeah, may cost us a little bit today, but we win on it tomorrow. We win on it the next day, all of next week, all of the next month, all of this year, and for years into the future. And we win every time. So that's the personal challenge that I'm taking on as a leader in our company. Thank you.
When the facts are that more than 2/3, I would venture to say 3/4 of the deaths are in the non-union sector, that points to the fact that unionized workers push for better safety programs. They do get in employers' face. But you know, when their jobs are contracted out, what happens is workers go into survival mode. And here we have, it really is a perfect storm when you have the regulations being cut, the enforcement being cut, we're contracting out all of this work. We shouldn't be surprised of the number of fatalities. And I got to tell you, it really bugs me when I hear people say that we can't be finger pointing but oh boy, it's okay to blame the worker and blame a culture of risk-taking on the workers, and at the same time, we don't have people in industry stepping up and being held accountable. Where's the accountability for management when some worker gets killed not 45 feet away from his death site, is posted on a board, it says that there's not going to be welding on rims. And you find out that they were welding on rims, not once, not twice, but several times in that operation. And nobody gets held accountable. We just end up with blood on the floor.
We're going to have to take, those of you who have mentioned we have to take a coordinated approach. I agree with that implicit. Safety is going to have to become paramount in ways that I am compelled to conclude it simply hasn't been. Because again, the numbers bear tribute to that fact.
Well, 36 Canadians have died in Afghanistan since our troops first arrived there in 2002. Last year, 43 forest industry workers were killed in British Columbia. Today, a coroner's inquest into one of those deaths opened. CH's Sky Ryan reports.
This is him when he's in his early 30s, and there's some of the size of the logs that he has done.
The fact that Ted Gramlich can now only be here in pictures is why so many have gathered at the Duncan courthouse.
We can't let this ever happen again. I don't want to, and I'm sorry, my Ted has to be the example of this all.
The 52-year-old faller died on a remote wooded ridge above Nanoose Bay on November 19, 2005. This is the first day of the inquest looking into the circumstances of the Crofton man's death to prevent future forest industry fatalities.
When you hear it firsthand from people, it gives you a whole different understanding of the circumstances.
The first witness to testify would be Gramlich's friend and fellow faller Mark Lee. The two were working on the same job that day, recalling for the jury how, apart by terrain, the two would check on each other's welfare by radio every half hour until the 12:30 p.m. check came, and Gramlich didn't reply. An over half-hour trek by foot through rough terrain to get to Gramlich's block, Lee found his friend badly injured, his scalp exposed, leg fractured, face pale.
He spent a better part of an hour with a man he worked very close with, watching him expire, essentially.
Lee performed CPR and encouraged his friend when Gramlich told him, "Mark, I am dying." And as the two waited an estimated hour for the helicopter he'd called for to arrive, Lee literally dug deep to bring the injured man comfort, putting his body into the ground beneath that of a pinned Gramlich's to, quote, give him a softer landing.
To keep him warm.
And a soft landing.
Soft landing.
And Gramlich died a short time after arriving at hospital. Lee testifying any helicopter that would have gotten there sooner would have helped out.
Why? Why was there such a big time lapse? Why did he have to lay there and slowly bleed to death? There was no need for it.
We believe this is a kind of death that was preventable had they followed proper safety protocol. Some of the safety policies that have been established in the falling industry for years were violated in this death.
The Steelworkers Union, which represents many forest industry workers, complains safety often takes a back seat to the pressure for profits in the forest industry.